I've been in marketing a long time, like 30 years or something, and the last 5 have, without doubt, been the most fun, the most exciting, the most learning of my whole career. It's been a great ride. The content marketing revolution, storming the barricades. I do my own Photoshop work, by the way, if anyone needs any of that. There's Joe Polizzi with his bared breasts storming the barricades of traditional marketing and kind of on this mission together to change the way marketing works. And that doesn't happen all the time. There's some kind of fallow, quiet times in industries, but we've been on an incredible learning curve together, which I really love too. I've been coming here 5 or 6 years, and it's this feeling of camaraderie, the sense that we're in it together, we're all learning together, and something cool is happening. But then the worst thing that can happen to any revolution happened. We won. And it's kind of weird, I used to have these long, drawn-out fights about content marketing with clients and their senior marketers. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not having that many anymore. It is true there are still the fights that the guys this morning were talking about getting the right stuff done. But about doing content marketing, that's kind of dissolved into marketing now. That's what we do now. So the question, of course, is now what? What's next? And I don't mean what's the next fad, because I never thought content marketing was a fad. As it went up the curve, a lot of people were saying that. For me, it's like, when can it be a bad idea to help your customers do their jobs or help your prospects do their jobs? It's here to stay without any doubt. But then where should our attention be going? You look at the agenda here. There are so many bids on our attention. We could be focusing on anything. Where should we be focusing? In a way, what has happened is marketing's going into this operational mode. We're kind of figuring out best practice and industrializing it and bedding it down. Like for a while, it was a bit free-for-all. Try this, try this, try that. We're all in experimental mode. Now I feel like we're moving into more of an industrial operational mode. We have these content matrices with learning to entertain and persuade and convert and educate with our content. We've got social media marketing calendars and editorial calendars. We got mapping our content to the purchase journey furiously and tracking all our keywords. And we got a content marketing periodic table of the elements. We got, sophisticated digital marketing frameworks. It's all coming out our ears, and it's all starting, I don't know about you, but feeling a little bit like engineering or dentistry or something, There's something has got lost as we industrialize. Something's been forgotten. Content's become often the goal instead of a means to a goal, which I know you'll hear a lot about today and about the need for strategy. And optimization's become kind of an obsessive-compulsive disorder. And I like optimization. I think it's hugely important if you're starting with something remarkable and great. If you're that metaphor, polishing a turd I was going to use, it's got to be the ugliest metaphor. I always picture someone doing this, it's just terrible. But if you are polishing a turd, optimization can only get you so far. You can't optimize your way to relevance and resonance. You've got to find that in somebody, right? But brands have become these soulless, content-spewing zombies. We're just generating. There's no there. It's like Canada. I'm totally kidding. I love Canada, probably more than my own country most days. But there's no there in a lot of people's marketing, and even some very good marketing. You think, that's good content, and then you kind of say, I want to see some more. And as you see more and more, you realize, there's nothing tying this together. There's no there. Who is the company putting this out? It is good content. It is well considered. I used to think the threat to all of us was just crap content. It's actually not that. It's good content, but not particularly connected up. So if optimization isn't next and what we should all be focusing on, or all the different frameworks, what should be next? For me, the next big thing is the oldest thing in marketing. It's what actually worked before content marketing. It worked during content marketing. It's what should be working after. Everyone knows it, but very, very few brands practice it or really work on making it special. And that's the big, fresh, surprising, magnetic, galvanizing story. Stories used a lot. We hear it a lot. I don't mean Joseph Campbell's mythical hero's journey or the archetypal blah, blah, blah. This is really quite practical. This is about taking your company and turning it into a bit of a mission, a bit of a, something that like-minded people can come and join and be with you on. So a galvanizing story, to start with the definition, is a clear, compelling, structured narrative at the heart of your brand that unites everything you do and say. Clear, compelling, structured. Now, it doesn't mean you drag everyone through the whole story every time you meet them in every setting, but it's under there informing everything you do. And the question today is, how in focus is that for you guys right now? How well can you answer this and make that true? So it's your who, it's your why, if you're a Simon Sinek fan. It's why you do what you do. It's your DNA. It's your values. It's your beliefs packaged up into a story. I like the word galvanize for this. It has some wonderful synonyms: jolt and startle, impel and rouse. And all those are just great words all around this one word. And just to say, simple definition is to shock someone into action. And if we parse that, shock, marketing that doesn't reek of marketing, that doesn't just smell of marketing all the time. It's surprising. We're looking for surprise. Someone, so that we have someone in mind already. So this is empathetic, it's audience first. And it's about action, designed to trigger things that can be measured. Something's going to happen. One thing we've discovered, we do lots and lots of content strategies for lots of different tech companies mainly. And this has become a conviction that without a galvanizing story, strategy and execution are disconnected, content is isolated, tactics are stuck in their swim lanes. And I know one of the statistics that Robert shared this morning was about that fragmentation. But with a galvanizing story, strategy, content, marketing, sales, demand gen, all have a focus, a shared guiding concept. And that makes all the difference in the world, as we'll see. Andy Raskin wrote a great post called The Greatest Sales Deck I've Ever Read, and it was about a sales deck by Zuora. And he analyzed why it was so good. And it's a terrific post I recommend. He came up with 5 things that are mapped pretty closely to the 5 I'm going to share with you. And I think it's a very similar story. And he ended with a sales narrative. I'm going to cross it out and say a galvanizing story works best when everyone tells it. So one of the really great things about the best stories that you see and hear, you realize, wow, everybody's on board with this. Everybody in this company knows what it's about and why. Drift. I just took this as a logo. You had to go grab a logo, and then I found out in rehearsal that it was a GIF. But it explains something, because I always wondered, why is there a T and all these T's in the Drift logo? But it's decapitated people. That explains it. See, wait, they're going to lose their heads. So it makes all the sense in the world. You guys know Drift. Drift is just the hottest thing, hotter than a hot thing in hot competition. And they are going crazy from 0 to 150,000. You don't know Drift? Wow. All right, I'll explain them then. They do essentially chat bots and live chat for websites. Big deal, right? There's a lot of companies doing that. Well, these guys are a big deal. They've gone from 0 to 150,000 customers in like 3 years or something. They're very, very hot. And I know it's not their tech. When they had started, they were just another chatbot vendor, They've done a lot of innovating since, but out the gate, it was just, I kind of thought, what's so hot about this? This exists already. There are all these companies doing it, and doing it well. You'll notice all of them are talking about chat and chatbots and things like that. And Drift doesn't do that. Drift is not just a company, it's a movement. And that's really what I want to start exploring, this movement. They don't just have customers, they have fans. They have people who follow everything they do and evangelize for them. And everyone in the company it's a kind of very cult-like. And that's all about story, really. It's all about the story that they have developed. Where does these kind of stories come from? I think of this slide as like the soil that galvanizing stories grow out of. Might be around your category, might be about your worldview, might be your beliefs. Your origin, where you came from, is part of it, but I put that in a different color because I want to kind of dispense with that as it's not the same thing. And I've seen a lot of companies say, well, that's our origin story, and that's our story. It really isn't, but it's an interesting place to start and think. So for origin stories, the most famous is humble origins. Of course, we had 2 guys in a garage. So HP and Palo Alto was 2 guys in a garage. And Apple just decided on a whole different thing, and they started in this garage in Cupertino. So you see, that's a 2-car garage. And then Seattle, Microsoft started in a garage, and then Amazon, and this one in Bellevue, Washington. Which does beg the question, if you're starting a business, why the hell would you start in any other room in the house? I did a little math. Market capitalization in squillions. Garage is just hockey stick, like literally a hockey stick. And it's more than TV room, laundry room, and bathroom put together. So if you're starting a business, you want to raise some money, get out of the WeWork and find yourself a fucking garage. In fact, I'm surprised WeWork doesn't do that. They actually should have just empty, shitty garages to start your business in. The humble origin story. Also, my other favorite is the lucky-ass pivot. Lucky-ass pivot stories are great, and they're bothersome too. So Tiny Speck, little games company trying to make a game called Glitch. They were in 3 different places, the development team, so they had to hack their internet relay chat into some kind of platform to help them collaborate, right? The game flopped. So they thought, well, we have a little money left, let's take this internet relay chat hack that we built and turn it into something. And it was Slack, fastest growing business app in history. It's a great origin story, the lucky-ass pivot. Another favorite one that I'm sure Tom Webster will know, Odeo, the podcast discovery platform. When podcasts were new, there was no one place to discover them. It was a good idea, right? Odeo, we'll serve them all up. And then iTunes decided they might try that, and oops, they had like 2 weeks of money left and said, well, let's make Twitter. Not a bad pivot. So the lucky-ass pivot, the humble origin, does make you ask, where did you come from? And asking that starts with, why did someone set this up at all? Why did someone feel that a company was needed here? My very first freelance copywriting gig many years ago was this company called Barima. I know, the romance of B&B. This was a rock-powered drill-in breaker that ran on gas instead of a compressor, so you could go to like distant frozen places and dig. I guess they wanted to dig and drive stakes and stuff like that. They were from Sweden. This was called the Pioneer, and they were coming to America and wanted to change it to pioneer, the American word. And I was like, no, let's keep it that way. Let's use Sweden. And the line was essentially about, we're from Sweden, the ground is frozen for 7 months of the year, we're fucking good at this, And that's just a sense of, all right, use your origin. Don't just assume. Like, the natural thing for Europeans coming to America is be global, don't tell them where you're from. It's like, wait a sec, maybe where you're from is interesting, So maybe you can ask that question, where'd you come from and what's interesting about it? All that was just to dispense with that lower left corner green one about origin stories, right? Other places, Jay Akunzo wrote this, Break the Wheel. If you made better choices, you'd be in his session right now. Terrific book about how to find those differences in yourself. He says the differences between us and others may be small, but I believe they make all the difference in the world. And he goes through 5 or 6 questions you can start asking yourself about your company to tease out these differences. What is it? What's special about us? I like doing that. The technique I'm going to walk you through is a little bit different. It's simply the 5 parts to your galvanizing story. I'll run through them now, then we'll go through one at a time. First, a change in the world, hugely important. Second, the new potential that change in the world creates. Third, the obstacle that stops you from realizing that potential. Fourth, the breakthrough that all of a sudden makes it possible. And fifth, the payoff, why it's all worth it. So those are the big 5. I think I was listening to Tamsin's this morning. What were the 3? I'm good, I'm compelling, I'm smart, capable, good. And I was like thinking, oh shit, am I going to have to rewrite my thing in 10 minutes? But actually, I think this really maps really well, that you are assuming people are smart, capable, and good, and that they've been doing a great job, but something happened. Something happened. And this is where the beauty of this structure comes in, that it starts with change. This thing can look like a formula. And I really don't think formulas work. And I've definitely seen people, you probably do it in your own companies, you've seen people, they make a little message house and they fill it in and it's all fits and all the boxes fit and they're done. And that's it. See, they all fit and they're in boxes. And everyone buys into them. And there's a lot of Kool-Aid being drunk when you do it. It's like you just kind of believe. There's no torture testing. I want you guys to think about this harder. Like, no, this has to be real, compelling, means something, moves somebody. So with that attitude, this can be quite a powerful thing. So first, the change. Oh, no, first I wanted and this, okay, I'm breaking here. But before we talk about the what of the story, it's the who. Because you're answering this for a very, very specific person, and that's your ideal prospect. Your ideal prospect is the people who are most likely to buy really soon, like now, and most likely to be happy about it when they have bought. You got to keep that very specific person in mind when you answer all the questions and go through this story. My friend Bob Apollo from Inflection Point has a great tool for this called Identifying Your Ideal Customers. It's a free download PDF thing. And he takes you through just all the different factors that you can tease out to get super specific about your ideal customers and even rule out, that last column is about qualify out certain companies. This is a liberating thing, and it makes your galvanizing story way more focused. So let's keep that person in mind as we walk through. Okay, first, the change in the world, by far the most important thing. So marketing exists to make your prospects want to change something. It might be their minds, their approach, their vendors. You need them to change. The problem is people hate change. Like the doctors in this morning's story. Change carries risk, all kinds of risk. It carries performance risk, it might not work. Financial risk, going to cost more than it saves. Opportunity risk, if I do this, I'm closing the door to these three things. Social risk is a huge one, even in B2B. People are going to hate me if I implement this solution. Or career risk, they're going to fire me if I implement this solution. That's a lot of risk to take on, you know. So in the face of all that risk, the only thing that can get people to want to change is change itself. And this is where you say good, capable people, smart people. You can say, yeah, you have been up till now, but the world's changed. And good, capable, smart people change when the world changes. So your galvanizing story is built on this, a real, inevitable, significant, and relevant change in the world. I think it's the most important part of the whole talk, is if you nail this change and bring people along with you, you're opening doors, and the resistance goes down. Teasing that out, it's real. You can't just make it up. It's got to be a real thing. Inevitable, it's happening with or without you. It isn't just something you're making happen. This is an inevitable change in the world. It's significant. It's definitely going to make an impact on the market sooner rather than later, and it will touch your prospect personally. So this kind of test of this change, of these four things. Your take on how the world has changed is the foundation of your galvanizing story. The thing about the 5 steps, they are kind of sequential. If you don't believe this one, you're not going to really be very motivated by the next one and the next one and the next one. So you really want to build on solid ground and nail this. Again, real and inevitable, how do you make that true or believable? This case is based on evidence. You share the data for it. You show third-party support. You point to the drivers of change, and you get people nodding their head, this is a real change. That it's significant and relevant is more about logic than evidence, that it's worth prioritizing, and you have to connect it to the target prospect themselves and show why it's urgent, why now. So, you know, there are ways to kind of build the significance and relevance of the change. You got to avoid the boringly obvious. A lot of people will do stuff like consumers are more demanding than ever. And that's the change that we now have to respond to. It's like, really? But weirdly, unlike most things in marketing, you also, that's the NSS test, that's the no shit Sherlock test. If you can say no shit Sherlock after it, it's probably not a good change in the world. You also avoid controversy. You know, in a lot of marketing, you court controversy. It's fun, and it gets attention, and all those great things. Here's one place where you actually don't want a controversial change in the world. Bitcoin will inevitably replace world currencies. That's the change. Now let me take you on my journey. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't agree with that. I don't believe it. I dispute it. And so you're not going to get them anywhere, really. You need them to go, yep, that's the world I recognize. The key to this change is it's fresh and surprising enough that they lean forward, not the boring one, but it feels right. It's something that validates, as Tamsin was saying this morning, it validates what they already believe. If you succeed at this, the risk of inaction becomes greater than the risk of action. For Drift, their change in the world was buyers have changed, sales and marketing hasn't. They've got a big story around it, the quotes in blue for each of Drift's example. I'll use them throughout. It's from their website. There's a problem with the way we've been taught to market and sell. It no longer matches how buyers buy things. So that disconnect is what they're all about. It's like there's a wall between us and our prospects now because they want something, they've moved on, and we have not. So there's a change in the world. For any marketer, that should feel real and inevitable and significant and relevant. Okay, that's the change in the world part. Now, the change in the world creates an opportunity, a new potential. So the idea is to channel the anxiety of change into the excitement of opportunity. And that also, I think, maps to Tamsin's, luckily, which is, it isn't just pain, 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 more pain, 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 run from that pain. It's more like, no, this change is great for you. If you do the right things, if you handle it right, this is going to be fantastic. And that's the new potential. So that's either solve a problem, seize an opportunity, or do both. A lot of companies are in the solve a problem business. I like it, but I get more excited by the upside of seizing an opportunity. It just feels like it's a bigger thing. It's not like you can't build a great thing about solving problems, but if you think of it this way, let's say it's an insurance claims managing process and you say I can reduce the cost of it or time of it by a third or to a third, right? Well, the maximum value of that is the reduction. You can get to zero. You can't get any further than that, right? Whereas if it's a new product, a new market, a new territory, the max value is unlimited, really. If you help someone discover and seize a new opportunity, it's often got unlimited potential. So we like to kind of turn problem stories into opportunity stories, not because we're Pollyanna positive. In fact, if anything, we're kind of the opposite. We love a little bit of negativity, but because it's easier to get excited about, not just something that isn't going to hurt quite as much as it hurt before. So really the new potential is about balancing certain things. It's about balancing value and credibility, which are fairly inversely related in marketing, right? The more something valuable it is, the less people believe it. The more they're willing to believe it, the less it means to them. So you got to find this kind of sweet spot of value and credibility, and also this balance between problem solving and opportunity seizing. Your story needs a clear view on the new potential created by the change in the world. We got to avoid overclaim here. New potential can get really marketing-like. A new lobby carpet will transform your customer experience. Probably won't. But avoid underclaim. It's got to be worth getting out of bed for. A new lobby carpet could improve your lobby. Not so exciting. There's got to be something in between, right? For Drift, it was conversation creates a fast lane on your website. People love communicating with messaging because it's fast, easy, and actually feels like a conversation. New potential that you've got here because of this change in the world. Now, something's stopping you, right? Stop blocking you from realizing that potential. What's stopping your prospects from responding to the change in the world? That could be a mindset. They're just not thinking right about it. It could be a legacy technology. It could be the cost of available options. Something is stopping them or they'd be doing it already. The best galvanizing stories have a clear enemy. So it's really good to think, who are we attacking? Who are we replacing? Who's the enemy here? It's also fun to attack stuff in marketing. It's fun to, especially things that are frustrating people anyway. A good enemy is anything that stops your prospects being successful. For Drift, it was legacy technology and an outdated marketing mindset are blocking you. So most businesses are still forcing people to jump through endless hoops before a conversation can take place. Just trying to get that form fill and MQL and all the rest of it. For them, it's both mindset and technology. A lot of the big ones in marketing recently have been this combination. Like marketing automation was new software, but it was also a new way of thinking. It was doing new things, and it was new technology as well. For HubSpot, the obstacle was outbound marketing, the old school broadcast-style interruptive marketing. Interrupt stuff people care about and shove your ad message in their face was the old school. That was the enemy. They built quite a business fighting that. And for Slack, the obstacle is internal email. If you really want to collaborate across departments, internal email has got to be the worst way in the world to do that. It's optimized for one-to-one communication, not for groups sharing information. So they had a really crystal clear obstacle there. And then on to the breakthrough. So what's the reason that the obstacle can now be overcome and the potential can now be realized? And now is an important word here. It's got to feel like something happened. You can do these stories without necessarily a massive breakthrough, in which case it may just be a new mindset, a new way of thinking about things. But it's great if there's some kind of actual advance. It gives people that reason to believe. New mindset again, new technology, new business model. That maps to those obstacles. The breakthrough adds urgency and credibility to the story. So urgency because, hey, something happened and I can be the first in there, or my competitor might be. Credibility is, oh, that's why this thing is now worth addressing or seizing. For Drift, conversational marketing now makes it possible to build real relationships at scale. Conversational marketing builds relationships and creates authentic experiences with customers and buyers. So for them, they create a category and called it conversational marketing. And they define that and flesh it out and tell you all about how it's different than traditional marketing. And it's a new thing. For Slack, the breakthrough is channel-based messaging. So being able to talk to people in channels about a topic or a project or a client or a customer or whatever. There's a specific channel for that. Everyone knows who should come and listen. There's a record of the conversations around it in a channel that you don't get an email. So that's been their breakthrough. And in fact, weirdly with Slack, they're a client of Velocity, and they didn't really even know what their breakthrough was. They got so big before they discovered marketing. They had to kind of retrofit and think, what do people like about this? I mean, it's the weirdest company I've ever worked with. I love them. They're fantastic. But they didn't know. But they were huge and successful before they really knew why, and had to kind of check out the tweets and listen to what people are saying and then realize where their breakthroughs were. And they have several, but this is the big one, this channel-based versus email. HubSpot, of course, the opposite of outbound, inbound marketing. It existed, it was called content marketing, but they branded it, made it a category, and have really, really succeeded with that. Writing the book is always a good idea, too. A lot of these people who are creating categories are writing books about it, of course. So that's the question. Is there a category trying to get out here? There's a book called Play Bigger, written by 4 West Coast marketers. I don't know how they got together to do that. But I don't know if you've read Play Bigger, but it says that all we have to do is create a category. That's the only job of marketers. I think they've gone too far. I think there are plenty of companies who fit quite neatly in an existing category, and it isn't the answer. But if you don't fit very neatly in a category, it's like, I hate being called that. I'm not that. Like, I don't want to be lumped in with CRM vendors. We're so different. That's when you start to think, oh, maybe there is category creation, which is a non-trivial challenge, but worth it. If you've got something that justifies its own category, that could be your job. That could be the galvanizing story. For HubSpot, it was inbound. Am I going backwards? Yeah, I am. Whoops. Marketo, it was marketing automation. That was a new category. HubSpot, we said inbound. Salesforce, probably it wasn't CRM, but it was software as a service at the time. They were hugely evangelizing. For Drift, we know it's conversational. A lot of the big hits have decided to invent a category. So what's your breakthrough? You do have to avoid bullshit. Our wrinkle cream has Boswellox. It's my favorite. That's real. Boswellox is a real fake ingredient in a wrinkle cream. And I just love cosmetic stuff. It's like now with Nutrianum. It's like, on Mars you found Nutrianum and it just happened to eliminate wrinkles or something. Cosmetics are famous for it, but there's a lot of fake stuff in tech, our markets as well, where they just come up with something, wave a wand, call it that thing. People get bullshit. They also know when you're bandwagon jumping, so AI-powered footwear. Everything's got to be AI-powered now, so we have clients who just say, just put AI in there. Say, well, tell us your AI story. And it's like, just put AI in there. It's like, you've got to kind of have something. People can spot that. So, okay, we've done the change in the world, the new potential that it creates, the obstacle holding you back, the breakthrough that makes it possible, and then finally the payoff. Why is it worth going through all the pain of change to do this? So the payoff clarifies the benefits that the breakthrough will deliver. What's different about this one, the 5th one, is not like the others because credibility is the critical challenge. So if we go back a few to this, you look at these others, credibility is not that big a deal. Change in the world, if it's right, they're going to recognize that. New potential, yeah, that'll make sense. The obstacle people will have been experiencing. The breakthrough, if it's well structured, there's no reason they shouldn't believe that. You can show them the tech. But the payoff is actually very, very sensitive to credibility. And that's because marketers lie all the time. And we've all been burned by some really bad overhype in marketing. So this is where we have to work really hard to say it's true, to make people care, make people believe you. For that, underplay instead of hype is important. It's so against most marketers' instincts, but if you know that it's 2 nanoseconds faster, say it's 1 nanosecond, then outperform it, Don't get caught up in the arms race of claims. Find the right altitude for the benefit. So if you ladder every benefit up, you'll get to share price will increase or something like that. That's too high for lobby carpets. You've got to find the right altitude for the claim that says, yeah, I can connect what you're doing with that claim. And then, of course, support with all the evidence you can possibly come up with. Market data, the product usage data itself, reviews and customer stories, analyst reports, surveys. You can't really have too much of this stuff when we've got people as far as to the payoff stage. Andy Raskin says, by far the most effective type of evidence is a success story about how you've already helped someone else who's similar to them reach the promised land. So good case studies like, wow, I recognize that company, they're like me, and look how we marched them there is an important thing, I think, in its place. And one thing I like about the structure of the story is that each of the 5 things creates context for the others. You know, if it's alone and on its own, okay, it might make an impact, but when you lock them together, you realize why each is important. For Drift, they have lots of payoffs. I mean, it all is around this. So again, I'm reverse engineering. They're not a client of Velocity. So create a more human buying experience comes out a lot. Learn a ton about your buyers, convert more leads and better leads, shorten sales cycle, grow your pipeline. These are the kind of payoffs that they talk a lot about. But they don't just talk about them. They don't just claim them. They're constantly showing you. And they've got so many case studies that their own little bot has to help you navigate them. He pops up and says, hey, there's a lot of them. Can I help? That guy came on to me the other day. He said something like, come here often. Or, no, he said, I see you come here often. It's like, ooh. It's a bit forward for a bot. But he's there to help you. And each one of these case studies has a little headline, hard to see there, about the numerical delivery of you know, which of those payoffs that they pushed. Avoiding hype is obviously important. Totally transform your entire company with zero effort. I'm only slightly exaggerating with that one because you actually see this quite a lot. And nobody's buying this. And that's what I mean by Kool-Aid. If your payoff is anything like this, you got to dial it back into something people will believe. That credibility will pay dividends everywhere in your marketing if you don't, if you can resist the temptation to hype your stuff. That credibility and being honest about your downsides and things like that pay dividends throughout the entire story and every time you market to people. So putting drifts on a t-shirt are, well, you wouldn't get it on a t-shirt, but 5 t-shirts. Buyers have changed, but marketing hasn't. People will reward relevant, timely conversations, but old tech and old thinking blocks this from happening. Conversational marketing unleashes a new way of marketing, and that leads to deeper relationships and faster sales cycles. Tight story that they can kind of support all the way through. So, okay, you get your story, what do you do with it? A lot of companies, you put it in a PowerPoint and you put it on the shelf somewhere, but you can't start a revolution with PowerPoint. This thing has to now be activated. If you've got something you believe in that works, that's exciting, it's time to get it to market. That's tell one story in a zillion places. Drift did this, starting with books, the core. So in some of your content, you'll tell the whole story. The galvanizing story will be all there. Others will pick off a certain thing to support and know that your content mix will aggregate into your whole story. But they do books on it. They do lots and lots of webinars, many with the term conversational marketing in the title. They're trying to make a thing happen. They're trying to make a new category. Lots and lots of blog posts, again, with conversational marketing generally in the title. A club, Drift Insider, come and join us, basically saying subscribe to our stuff, but with some extra little benefits. So they get people to raise their hand and be fans, and then pay a lot of money to go to a live event. This is all the same story coming out. And so it's telling that one story in a zillion places that starts to make the difference. I mean, all of a sudden, these isolated things are gelling together, and there's just this sense that one thing's going on here. And that's a very compelling thing, because these guys target marketers, so marketers notice, and you'll constantly be seeing things like tweets. Am I going to go forward? Whoops, I'm going backwards. Like this, you know, these guys, everyone seems to be on the same page, pushing the same message and leveraging the same channels. It's infectious. They get lots and lots of buzz from marketers about how they're doing this and how surprising it is to have such a strong, clear story. Again, these guys, the decapitators, they did this phenomenal growth with prosaic product at the beginning. I'm sure dispute that right now, and I know they've moved it on. But it really wasn't the product that did this. And you think, well, wait a second, if a story can do that, if just getting your story together and everybody telling it and making sure it resonates with this audience can do that, well, why wouldn't you want to spend a lot of time on your story? So galvanizing stories really do start revolutions. You can optimize, you should get your machine going and industrializing, all of this is good. But you don't want to become a soulless, content-spewing zombie. You got to have some there, and the there I'm proposing is the galvanizing story. I wanted to do a quick galvanizing story for galvanizing stories, just get all meta on you. The change. Content marketing alone is no longer enough. We've already said that hey, we won. Like as an agency, Velocity used to be able to say that's what we are, a content marketing agency. Now we have to say a lot more than that. If you can stand for something clear and compelling, you win. I really do believe that. But marketing has become fragmented and lost its soul. We're all doing that furious stuff in those swim lanes. The future is the past, the big idea and the galvanizing story. Get it right, and you can bring your zombie brand back to life and seize this opportunity. Thank you. Start your revolution, your face here, but do cover your boobs. The rule of thumb. Thank you very much. Oh, 5 minutes for story for questions, if anyone does have any questions. Sure.
Thank you.
No. I can repeat it if you want to just say it.
So a lot of what you talked about was functional, rational decision-making process. If you agree that the notion that 90% of decisions we make in buying situations, they're emotional driven. So the subconscious, unconscious. What advice do you give for clients, whether it's thrift or clients, but others, help kind of package that, find that balance between the emotional level connection and the functional utility level?
Okay, great question about finding the heart in all of this. That was all very rational, building a case. That's a great point. One I should have built in. Next time I give this talk, I will. Very good point. And I think this talks to Tamsin's thing about we're rationalizing individuals. There is a whole parallel thing here about being likable and giving this message out that you love what you do and you're passionate about it. And there's a ton of making heroes out of your audience and celebrating what's great, like what MailChimp is doing we saw this morning. And that's, in a way, a parallel thing. And maybe the more important thing is that you win the heart. But then they have to rationalize and say, okay, I love this company, not quite sure why. And I think that is a big part of Drift's success. They just do a lot of fun things. They're always experimenting, and people want to get on board. But then they got to tell somebody, I want to use this thing. And that's where Tamsin's rationalizing comes in. And in B2B especially, you got to have a tight enough story for them to tell it to themselves, rationalize why they love this company, and then go tell it to other people. But it's a super good point. I think leaving heart out of the mix is at your peril, definitely. There.
I was actually gifted with a naturally loud voice, so one of your slides talked about finding the right altitude, and I think that's really interesting because, say, for example, Drift acquires an event management company, right, and then acquires a couple other companies, and all of a sudden is solving a lot of different problems for a lot of different people. Then you end up with a company that says, we're going to digitally transform your business, right? Which is more of that like soulless, right, content.
Yeah.
So how do you go about with large B2B companies that solve multiple problems, finding the right altitude for that story?
That's a great question about altitude. What if you have many, many products? And a really, really good question. And a big challenge. So some of our clients have huge portfolios. And what often happens with you when you look to the common ground is you get white noise. Like, we help businesses be better businesses. We had, working for Xerox at one point, it's like, God, they have healthcare and traffic management. They've got, copiers. They got everything. And the strapline was work can work better. It's like, we just make stuff better, all right? And it's a problem. And for me, I look to the galvanizing story in smaller pockets, not the whole company in that case. The whole company, you will want to look for the common ground, but you don't necessarily have to make that common ground your lead energizing story, because it probably won't energize that many people. There may be something under there, like Apple has a whole lot of products. I would say they've got something about where people meet computers and that their genius is there, whatever they do. and it's a strong belief, and you can recognize it everywhere. So they have managed that because everything they do is from this ethos. But some companies have grown by acquisition. They've got this weird portfolio. And there, the common ground stuff may not be that, it may be true, may not be that compelling. And so it's like, okay, figure one out that makes sense. Don't necessarily think that will be your energizing one. It might be that your healthcare division over here has its own galvanizing story, or even a product does. That's where you want to put your mojo because of that problem. Oops, sorry, one more here. Great. So how do we convince everyone to come together? To me, already I can tell this is the theme of this year. There's always one theme that just is like the theme. It was in Joe's talk. It was in Tamsin's talk. I do a talk on a stakeholder through the heart. It's called, about how to align stakeholders. This is the thing. And I think you may not have the power to do it all yourself, but your job is to align those people. So it's get them in a room and work on it. First, teach them the importance of it, that you need to. Show them what good ones look like and what it'll do for the company, and what bad, how much more expensive being fragmented is. So first kind of get buy-in to the need for it, and then get buy-in to the participation of doing it. Now that can be tough. You can be in a committee and what comes out is awful. We've come, clients will say, we did a 2-week offsite and we have our story, and they come back, it's like, excellence and innovation. It's like, oh shit, what are we gonna do with that? So the committee is your next problem, but your first problem is getting people to realize that you need one, it's got to be good, it's got to be compelling, let's look at some other companies that do it, and then let's get together and make that story together.
I'm thinking about your example of Drift, and it seems like their story didn't just help their marketing, it helped make their entire product experience better. We use Drift, and we use it way more and in more engaging ways than we ever would if it was just a chatbot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I really love about the galvanizing story, when you get it right, is this feedback loop. You are interacting with your ideal prospects, not just anyone, your ideal ones, and that feedback loop is a high-quality loop. And then you've got your internal people who are excited about the same story. And I think the resonance goes way beyond marketing or content into the things you're saying. You see it in product. You see it in everything. Customer service, which the same story feeds into. But I agree, it goes way beyond. Is that our last one? Thanks very much, guys.